New York City's lights turned the night into almost day. People rushed along the sidewalks, taxis honked their horns, and the towering skyscraper's windows displayed the constant bustle of business. After a long day, Donald Trump had just finished an important meeting at the Plaza Hotel and was about to get into his luxury Cadillac. As the chauffeur opened the door, Trump raised his hand. "Give me a moment. I want to take a walk." The chauffeur and security guards exchanged puzzled looks. Walking alone on the streets of New York was unusual for Trump, but he was someone who liked to gather his thoughts amidst the chaos. Despite the noise, lights, and rapid pace of the city, he took slow steps, lost in his own mind. On the side of the road, sitting on the corner of a building, a woman caught his attention. She wore an old, worn military jacket. The jacket had been battered by years of use, with some areas torn, but the words U.S. Army were still clearly visible on the left chest. The woman had pulled her knees to her chest and wrapped herself in an old American flag. In front of her, there was a plastic cup filled with a few coins, but most people walked by without sparing her a second glance. Trump paused for a moment. His eyes focused on the woman's face. Her skin was cracked from the cold, and her hair was tangled. But what stood out most were her eyes. In them there was exhaustion, sorrow, and a loss of hope. Trump instinctively walked toward her. The woman was staring at the ground, and when she heard the sound of footsteps, she looked up. Her eyes widened in surprise as she realized who was standing before her. You're Donald Trump," she stammered. Trump smiled faintly and nodded. "Yes, that's me. What's your name?" The woman, her voice trembling, replied, "Linda Parker. I'm a former soldier." Trump raised an eyebrow. "A former soldier?" Linda nodded. "I served in Iraq. When I came back, I lost everything. At first, things were fine, but then health issues started. PTSD? I couldn't sleep. I had nightmares. I worked for a while, but eventually lost my job. Then I lost my home. And before I knew it, my family left me. The government doesn't help. Nobody does. Now, here I am, just trying to survive on the streets." Trump listened carefully to Linda's words. Her voice, shaking in the cold, told the story of her pain. A thoughtful expression crossed his face for a moment. Then, he reached into his pocket and pulled out all the cash he had. He grabbed the stack and placed it into the cup in front of Linda. Linda looked at the money in disbelief. This is too much. Mr. Trump, you can't do this." Trump smiled gently. "This is just the beginning, Linda. You fought for this country. You made sacrifices. Now it's our turn." Trump pulled out his phone and quickly dialed a number. "Get me a hotel room immediately. I don't want this woman sleeping on the streets for another night." Linda couldn't hold back her tears. "Is this real?" she whispered. Trump turned to his assistant and gave instructions. "Arrange the best doctors for her. Make sure her health is taken care of. Also find her a job. I want to see what she can accomplish if given a chance." Linda wiped her tears and looked at Trump. "Why are you doing this?" Trump smiled. "Because no one, especially a patriot, should ever have to sleep on the streets." The next morning, Linda woke up in the soft bed of a five-star hotel. For the first time in years, she felt warm and safe. She had been given clean clothes, and when she looked in the mirror, she hardly recognized herself. When Trump invited her to lunch, she couldn't believe it. Sitting at a luxury restaurant, she felt valued again. After the meal, Trump told her, "I found you a job. You'll be working as a security guard at one of my hotels. You'll also have health insurance. You have a new beginning now." Tears streamed down Linda's face. "I'll never forget this, Mr. Trump. You saved me from the streets." Trump nodded slightly. "Don't thank me. Just take control of your life. You deserve a fresh start." A few months later, Linda had settled into her new job and her health had improved. Her life had completely changed. One day, Trump visited the hotel and Linda greeted him at the door. "Mr. Trump, I want to give you something," she said, holding out a small American flag. Trump raised an eyebrow. "What is this?" Linda smiled. This flag is the one I carried with me through the war. I want to give it to you because you believed in me and gave me a second chance. Trump took the flag with respect and looked at it for a moment. Then he turned to Linda and shook her hand. You served us, Linda, and this country should never forget heroes like you. The story quickly spread to the media. News sites, television stations, and social media began talking about the incredible act of kindness Trump had shown, and Linda's new beginning inspired millions. Once again, the world saw how a small act of kindness could make a huge difference. Because sometimes all a person needs is to be seen and believed in. Months had passed. Linda had now started a brand new life in New York. Thanks to the job Trump had provided her, she had a steady income, a home, and most importantly, a renewed hope for life. She worked as a security guard at the Plaza Hotel and felt better with each passing day. She no longer felt powerless like she had in the past, and when she looked in the mirror, she could see the light in her eyes again. But something was still missing. At night, while patrolling the long hallways, her mind would often wander back to her past. The days in Iraq, the friends she had lost, the fight to survive, and most of all, the daughter she had never met. When Linda joined the Army at a young age, she found out she was pregnant, but due to her deployment, she had to leave her daughter with her sister. When she returned, both her life and the world she knew had fallen apart, and reaching her daughter had become impossible. Her sister had moved away, and communication between them had completely broken off. Since then, Linda had never seen her daughter again. One night, there was a large event at the Plaza Hotel's exclusive hall. It was a charity evening that Trump was attending, and Linda was in charge of overseeing security. She spent the whole evening observing the event, carefully watching the guests. But at one point, she noticed a middle-aged woman approaching Trump. There was something strangely familiar about the woman's face. Her eyes seemed to hold the memory of a past she could not place. The woman was talking to Trump, gesturing excitedly with her hands. Trump frowned as he listened, then turned to Linda. When their eyes met, he slightly nodded and beckoned her over. Linda quickly approached Trump. Mr. Trump, is something wrong? Trump turned to the woman with a serious expression. Linda, I think this woman wants to talk to you. Linda looked at the woman in surprise. When the woman looked at her closely, tears filled her eyes, and with a trembling voice, she whispered, Linda? Is it really you, Linda Parker? Linda's heart began to race. Yes, who are you? Tears ran down the woman's cheeks. I'm Sarah. I'm your sister. Time seemed to stand still. Linda's breath caught in her throat, her eyes widened, and she felt as if she could no longer stand. After all these years, she had found her sister. Sarah took Linda's hands. I've been searching for you for years. I didn't know where you disappeared to. Everyone thought you were dead, but you're here. Linda tried to speak, but found herself struggling to hold back tears. I've been through such hard times. I was just trying to survive. I couldn't find anyone. Sarah shook her head. I know, but there's one more thing I need to tell you. Linda focused intently on her sister. What is it? Sarah took a deep breath. Your daughter, Emily? She's been looking for you too. Linda's body froze. Emily, the daughter she had been forced to leave when she was just a child. Wait, where is she? Sarah smiled softly. She's here. At that moment, a young girl appeared at the door, slowly stepping inside. She had long, light brown hair and green eyes that looked just like her mother's. Linda struggled to find words as she looked at the girl. Emily took a few steps forward and, as their eyes met, whispered, Mom? Linda's tears became uncontrollable. Emily! She cried, rushing to her daughter and holding her tightly. The moment she had dreamed of for years had finally come true. Trump watched the emotional scene unfold, smiling gently. He turned to one of his assistants and quietly said, Don't release this to the media. This is a special moment. As Linda held her daughter close, she whispered, I'll never let you go. I'll never lose you again. Emily whispered into her mother's ear, "I always wanted to find you." From that night on, Linda's life changed once again. Not only did she have her job and a home, but her lost family had returned. Trump, in an effort to give Linda and Emily a fresh start, arranged a luxurious apartment for them, covered Emily's education expenses, and promoted Linda from her position in security to a special role in company management. Linda and Emily, as they walked past the Plaza Hotel every day, often remembered the miracle that had happened on that cold winter night. Trump hadn't just changed a person's life, he had helped reunite a family. And that day, Linda understood that sometimes second chances weren't just about a new job or a new home. They could be about bringing back what was lost. Trump turned to Linda one last time and smiled slightly. "No matter what happens from now on, you're not alone anymore." Linda nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know, Mr. Trump, and I will be forever grateful for that." This story wasn't just about how a simple act of kindness could make a huge difference. It was also a testament to the power of hope, love, and second chances. Once Linda had been fighting to survive on the streets. Now she was holding her daughter, living the happiest moment of her life. Because sometimes the greatest miracles happen in the most unexpected moments.